How will the Safe Banking Act change the cannabis landscape, and should investors be positioning themselves now for the changes coming? I'm Skylar James. Welcome back to the channel. The Safe Banking Act will rewrite federal law so that cannabis profits earned legally inside legal states would no longer be considered drug money in the eyes of the feds. Parts of the cannabis chain will benefit more than others. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering where I'm filming from, I'll tell you at the end of this video, but here's a hint. I'm channeling my inner Jerome Powell. First, let's cover the 3 big changes this act will have to the landscape as I see them. And then we'll cover who benefits specifically. The biggest changes is that the cannabis companies would have a whole new world of financial tools at their fingertips, tools that are already available to every other business out there already. Right now, banks generally don't take on cannabis companies as clients because the banks don't want the feds to come pointing fingers and accusing them of laundering drug money, which right now it technically is at the federal level. Some banks have come around to the idea of cannabis clients in recent years, but we're not that far removed from when there was just one single credit union in all of Washington state and one single credit union in Oregon willing to do business with cannabis companies. That's it in the entire US. In fact, the original push for the Safe Banking Act was this image of a cannabis farmer clutching $1 million in cash under his arm with no bank account for safe storage. There's a story of a guy who took his legal cannabis cash to the bank, and the bank told him it smelled like weed, and they closed his account. Really happened. When the Safe Banking Act passes, this will become ancient history. Banks and cannabis companies bury the hatchet and become friends. We'll see credit card companies jumping into the cannabis payment system as well. Visa will gladly be accepted at dispensaries around the country, and there will be no more need for farmers to use an obscure LLC to get approved for their company credit card. No more loopholes, just straight forward business. Profitable, green business. The second big change if the Safe Banking Act passes is that legal cannabis companies would get some federal tax relief. As of today, they're not actually engaged in a legal business in the eyes of the feds. As a result, cannabis firms have been denied traditional business deductions on their taxes. The feds want their taxes for sure, but they don't allow cannabis businesses to deduct simple production costs. I'm talking super simple costs like expenses incurred in the production, distribution, and sale of that product. What else is left then? Nothing. That's pretty much all the costs involved in cannabis production, which is why taxes for these growers are so crazy high. When the Safe Banking Act passes, companies that were teetering on the edge of profitable or not will maybe get enough tax relief to tip the scales in their favor. This is real money here. A farm doing $10 million in revenue a year might have millions in new deductions coming their way. That's not pocket change unless you've got pockets the size of swimming pools. And speaking of growers, I'm a grower. I'm trying to grow this channel. If you enjoy this type of content, please help grow the like button count from a little to a little more to maybe a lot. I appreciate it. And the third big impact of the Safe Banking Act would benefit cannabis employees. As you know, the cannabis industry employs hundreds of thousands of people. And guess what? They generally don't have access to 401k plans because under current federal law, cannabis wages are drug money. No bank wants to take on the risk of investing your drug money, you silly tax-paying employee, you. Again, it's different from region to region and company to company, but generally this holds true, and the Safe Banking Act will open the way for more retirement accounts for these legitimate employees. So the 3 big changes: banks and credit card companies are going to engage with the cannabis community as if they were any other legitimate business community. Legal cannabis companies will be granted federal tax relief similar to what any other business already enjoys. And 3, cannabis employees won't be seen as drug laundering criminals anymore. So let's move into part 2 of this analysis. If the Safe Banking Act passes, how will this affect investable cannabis stocks? In short, as a whole, not much. MedMen doesn't need some tax break to turn their business from good to great. If a farmer has a 401k, he's not suddenly growing triple the flour and double the margins. As a whole, the Safe Banking Act largely doesn't affect the investable side of cannabis, just the day-to-day side. But there are some very notable exceptions, and they're all in the pick and shovel space. The first, the biggie, GrowGen. This stock everyone loves but I think is completely uninvestable. Yes, I've told you this before in a video 3 months ago, and the stock is down 30% since then. Here's why I think it could get worse. In a nutshell, GrowGen is simply a middleman between growers and cultivation manufacturers, making a small profit along the way. I don't think their business model is scalable. Start the hate train from all the GrowGen enthusiasts. I'm sorry, guys. This Safe Banking Act, I predict, is going to end that business model. Scott's Miracle-Gro and Hydrofarm are going to interact directly with growers within a year of this bill passing, cutting out the middlemen like GrowGen. So anyone who is very bullish on GrowGen should ask themselves, and I don't mean this confrontationally, but ask yourself, have I been inside a GrowGeneration store before? How much money have I actually spent there? Am I familiar with how big commercial growers purchase their cultivation supplies? Without a firm grasp on the nuts and bolts and boots on the ground, so to speak, investors, I think, are misunderstanding GrowGen, or they have been misled by someone else who misunderstands GrowGen. But mark my words, this business model is in trouble. Scott's and Hydrofarm are fantastic pick and shovel plays, and they will benefit massively from the Safe Banking Act. They too are down from recent highs, but not because of revenue misses, not at all. They've been punished just because investors have lost hope in a near-term federal legalization. Investors have grown impatient and sold out. Meanwhile, Hydrofarm has spent the last 6 months gobbling up smaller brands, acquiring Heavy 16 and Aurora, a path Scott's, which owns Hawthorne Gardens, has been following for 5 years now, gobbling up all of the smaller cultivation suppliers. That's key. I really support M&A in this space. Get all these brands under your umbrella just before you cut out the middleman and sell directly to the grower. That's what Scott's and Hydrofarm are thinking in their boardrooms. So prepare yourself for the benefits that the Safe Banking Act will bring about. If you're directly in the industry, you should see increased banking access, appropriate taxation, and access to standard retirement programs. And if you're an investor in this space, I hope you're eyeing a few good pick and shovel plays and running away from the middlemen. Real quick, as to where I'm filming, I chose to head out to Wyoming and to Jackson Hole, and those are the Grand Tetons behind me. Figure if the FOMC come out here to channel their inner economist, that I'd give it a try too. Maybe with these wide open spaces, you understand the macroeconomic environment better. I don't know, there's gotta be something out here. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on the changes you see this act bringing about. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you on the next one.